What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and an apologies for the lack of regular videos recently, but this video will explain why I've not uploaded much over this past week. Now just to warn you guys, this intro is going to be very long, so if you don't want to listen to me rambling, just go ahead and use the timestamps to skip straight to the battles. But anyways, in this video, I'm going to be showcasing some battles with a core of Salazzle and Bombirdier, which took me from 2400 elo exactly on the dot all the way to just shy of Legend at 2969 elo. Now after my live stream on Friday, I was finally able to build myself a Bombirdier, a Pokemon that'll get a huge upgrade this season, gaining access to both Sucker Punch and Rock Tomb, but also a Pokemon that hadn't been available to catch for the entire season up until last week's event. Now I was just looking to make a regular video recording maybe 4 or 5 sets with the team, but I instantly went on a crazy run, and with the remaining sets I had on that Friday, I was able to climb all the way up to Expert rank. Now by the way, at the time the third Pokemon I was using was Galarian Moltres, however I did switch up the team a few times based on what I was seeing. At that point I was starting to think, you know what, maybe this is a team that I can hit Legend with. Now, those of you that watch my channel regularly will know that I'm not too fussed about hitting Legend. I don't consciously make a push for Legend, as it isn't my priority. My priority is actually just to bring as many spicy and unique teams as possible to entertain you guys, but every few seasons I do go on a good run with some sort of anti-meta team, usually in a limited cup to hit Legend. However, the last time I hit Legend in the Open Great League was all the way back in Season 2, I think, before I really started going crazy with the Spice, and since then I've hit Legend quite a few times in the Ultra League when I had my signature Gengar, Scrafty, and Obstagoon team, and every other time would have just been in some sort of limited meta. Now the reason I haven't hit Legend for so long in the Open Great League is that unfortunately when you're putting spicy teams together like this one, there are just too many Pokemon that you can cover for, whereas in limited metas I feel like it's a lot easier to build a slightly spicy anti-meta team, as you're really only going to have to count for about 10 different Pokemon, whereas in the Open Great League, whilst yes you will see lots of similar teams, there are still loads of different Pokemon that can just randomly core break your entire team if you're not running top meta picks. So with this in mind, I thought it was probably time for me to try and make a push for Legend. I waited until midnight on that Saturday to go straight back into battling, and I got myself into the mid 2800 elo range before hitting a wall, and that wall was a very specific team of Claydol, Morpeko, and Credilli. I don't know who made this team up, but it was absolutely everywhere, and as you can imagine, it was completely shutting down my team, which is where the Shadow Cacturn came in. Cacturn can beat all 3 of those Pokemon in certain shield scenarios, so whenever I saw Claydol in the lead, I'd just swap straight into Cacturn and I'd be absolutely fine. And this was the team that saw me get as high as 2969 elo. However, with Cacturn in the team, it meant that I was even weaker to Shadow Drapion, the most common save swap in the meta, and a Pokemon that I was already really struggling to deal with, so unfortunately it just wasn't quite able to get me over the line. And rather foolishly, instead of going to sleep, I carried on batting until I ran out of sets on that Saturday at like 5:30 AM, and of course by that time I was ridiculously tired. It meant that I was making really stupid mistakes, and Legend rank just kept on getting further and further away. I also got just so bored of the team that I started to try and mix it up a bit, and that's where it really fell apart, and unfortunately I just gave up in the end. Also, despite having loads of really good games, because it ended on such a low, I felt like a lot less hyped to get the video as soon as possible, and I felt a bit overwhelmed actually, just because I had so much footage to go through. I wasn't really sure what kind of battles I should be including. So in today's video, I'm just going to be showcasing some of the battles where my elo was at its highest. These are by no means my best battles with the team, but there should still be some impressive wins in here. Now before we get into the question of the day, I want to give a few quick shout outs to some of the people that donated in my previous couple of live streams. So thank you to Colin L, Bad Toad TTV, Square Shoulder, Scott Saucier, and Rusty Potato for their donations and gifted memberships in my last 2 recent live streams. Of course, didn't give any shout outs for the previous live stream, as actually the video I did upload after that Friday live stream was recorded before that. But anyways, with that being said, let's finally get into the question of the day. Are there any specific Pokemon that you were determined to make work and push for Legend, or whatever other elo goal you had, but you just weren't quite able to get over the line? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, heading into the first battle, leading Salazzle into Wall Rain. So of course, expecting Wall Rain to be on Earthquake, which I will definitely have to shield with my Salazzle, as that would very comfortably one-shot me, and especially, of course, dealing regular ice damage with the Powder Snows and the Ice Core Spears. I definitely do want to see it here. I'm definitely going to shield. The opponent is going to bait with an Ice Core Spear before swapping into a Shadow Drapion. Now, usually, I would actually go for Poison Fang up against Drapion. However, I'm already down a shield. I need to just guarantee either big damage or grabbing a shield back from the Shadow Drapion before I swap into my Bombirdier. Now, we're going to no-shield the Octel. That does quite a lot of damage, but I am able to win CMP with the Fly, and Fly gets the KO there. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. They come in with their final Pokemon, a Clodsire, before making a very nice catch there, catching the Fly onto their Walrein. However, Walrein did have energy, so I'm not too fussed about that. And as well, I'm able to make my own catch, hopefully catching a Sludge Bomb onto my Salazzle, and I'm able to do exactly that. However, even though that is resisted damage there, that still does quite a lot, and it will allow them to fully Poison Sting farm me down. But I do reach a last-second Poison Fang, and whilst, yes, that is double resisted, that should now allow me to go for a full fast move farm down up against this Clodsire. But we actually come back in with the Bombirdier. I was hoping to force the opponent to throw some energy, and they do that, but not only that, they throw on CMP, so that's huge for me. Now we can come in with the Shadow Cacturn, and of course, they're going to reach one last charge move, but they will not reach back-to-back Sludge Bombs here, so I safely shield up the Sludge Bomb, go for the Sucker Punch farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle, seeing Claydol in the lead. So this is the team I was mentioning. Gonna say swap into Shadow Cacturn, and we're met with more Pekko. I'm going straight for Trailblaze here. Of course, Dynamic Punch would hit for super effective damage, but it doesn't matter. I can go straight for Trailblaze. I'm definitely just gonna shield everything they throw here. Everything apart from an Outrage, which is very unlikely to have on a more Pekko, will be resisted. However, Shadow Cacturn just cannot tank anything. So we're gonna shield, double shield in fact, and now just commit to a full Sucker Punch farm down, coming out with tons of loaded energy, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent is going to wait and come in with a Cordilli. Now, I could have gone for Dynamic Punch here. This would have guaranteed the one shot, but Trailblaze gonna boost up my attack, and it forces the opponent to swap out anyways. So now we fire off another Trailblaze. Trailblaze grabs the final shield. We can swap into Bombirdier, and of course, Bombirdier, no shields remaining. This is gonna be an Ice Beam. Either Ice Beam or Rock Tomb would not get the KO anyways, and now we can just go for one Sucker Punch, fire off the Fly, and of course, Fly will be getting the KO up against Cordilli, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle, Salazzle into Malamar, so not ideal for me. I'm going to swap into my Bombirdier, and the opponent is going to choose to stay in with the Malamar. I can tank a superpower here, going to hit for neutral damage, and it's a non-shadow, so it doesn't do too much damage, and now they swap into a Diggersby. So I like to try and throw the Fly on the Simpy Tie with the Fire Punch here, but the opponent doesn't throw straight away, but they do throw just before I reach Fly number 2. So at this point, I'm actually just going to let the Bombirdier go down, going to come in with my Salazzle, and the opponent is going to outpace me to the charge move just barely. I'm definitely going to shield. The opponent is going to full send the Scorching Sands. I can now overfarm here, farming up to back-to-back Poison Fangs, and Poison Fang probably should be enough damage to get the KO from that range, and it does. They come back in with Malamar, and I'm just going straight for Poison Fang number 2. The opponent no shields that. We can come in with the Shadow Cacturn, and I'm met with a Corviknight, and you think this should be an awful matchup for the Shadow Cacturn, but we go for Trailblaze. That's double resisted, but it boosts up my attack, and now we can just safely shield this up. The opponent is on Iron Head, so they will get to the charge moves fast, but not fast enough. I'm able to fully farm them down there. We can reach another Trailblaze. Trailblaze, once again, gonna boost up my attack, and now just because I can, I'm gonna swap, catch the charge move onto my Salazzle. Completely unnecessary, and it actually gives them more farm here, and if they were very close to a second charge move, I could have just thrown the game away, but luckily for me, they weren't, so I'm able to Sucker Punch, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle, and this is actually the same trainer that I battled in the first battle of this video here. They're going to play this out slightly differently, swapping straight into Shadow Drapion, and there you can see I do just go straight for the Poison Fang. We're now going to come in with the Bombirdier. They are going to go for an Arctotel, and I should be able to fully farm them down. However, this Arctotel will get me incredibly low, so we commit. No, actually, never mind. We're not going to commit. I realize at that point, one more Poison Sting probably takes me out, so unfortunately, forced to throw my energy there. I really wanted that farm down and coming out with a Rock Tomb loaded, but it doesn't work out for me. Now we're going to come in with Salazzle, and they swap into their Clodsire. So once again, going to go straight for the charge move. This time, I can't fire off the Dragon Pulse here. Dragon Pulse is going to get them fairly low, and I did try to swap out and catch a move, but of course, with Incinerate, it's basically impossible to catch any charge moves. So now I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Poison Fang here. This will not get the KO, but I will be able to swap into my Shadow Cacturn, and unfortunately not quite able to snipe them. However, the opponent will just be KOing me with the Sludge Bomb. They come back in with the Walrein. This game is not over yet. We are, of course, going to have to shield this. Even an Icicle Spear will easily get the KO from this range. I'm now going to farm up to back-to-back Poison Fangs, and I need them to shield the first charge move here. Poison Fang does get shielded, and now we can win CMP with Poison Fang number 2. do, but Poison Fang just barely does not get the KO there. Unfortunately, they live with a few HP, and of course, Icicle Spear gets the KO, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see another Malamar in the lead. So once again, swapping into Bombirdier, and the opponent responds with a Dugong. So of course, not really ideal for me, but I will be able to throw a Rock Tomb, throwing it on the CMP tie with the Icy Wind, and we're going to debuff their attack. Now, unfortunately, this means they can undercharge this maybe slightly and then commit to a full farm down, but actually, they undercharged too much. I'm able to reach a second Rock Tomb. I am now debuffed, so Rock Tomb does not get the KO. However, they are double debuffed. I mean, it doesn't really help me out. I don't think I can comfortably tank a Charge Reef on either Pokemon anyways, so I probably will just shield, respect the damage anyways. They do full send the Drill Run there before coming back in with the Malamar, but they do not debuff my attack. So Poison Fang, once again, going to be no shielded. We come in with the Shadow Cacturn, and they've got Superior in the back, so things looking a little bit tricky for me. I'm definitely going to shield as they go straight for an Aerial Ace. We are now going to overfarm with the Shadow Cacturn, fire off the Dynamic Punch on the CMP tie. Dynamic Punch is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and I have put them into full Incinerate farm down range. They fire off the Aerial Ace straight away. We come in with Salazzle, and we are able to get the farm down, come out with the Poison Fang, but that's not going to be enough. Instead, we're now going to commit to a Dragon Pulse, but I need to live the foul play, and Salazzle just barely able to hang on and live one more Psy Wave. Dragon Pulse gets the KO there, and I am just barely able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Credilli in the lead. So, we're going to stay in this matchup here, and I'm just going to go straight for a Poison Fang. Of course, not throwing on the best timing, but I need to get this off before they debuff my attack. So, we go for the Poison Fang straight away, and you can see one more Incinerate and then another Poison Fang. Should be enough damage to get the KO, but they swap into their Claydol. We're going to respond with the Bombirdier, as of course, I can no-shield one Charge Move. And whilst, yes, this is going to do massive damage to the Bombirdier, we can tank it. And now I can farm up to very close to back-to-back charge moves, fire off the Fly, and Fly will get the KO. They come in with their final Pokemon, a Toxapex, and I am able to reach a last second Fly before they fully farm me down. However, this is definitely a tricky Pokemon to deal with the Bombirdier out of the way. So we're going to go for the Dragon Pulse here. I need them to no-shield this, and the opponent does exactly that. And as well, the opponent not going to commit to a full farm down, so I'm going to have to just put it all on Shadow Cacturn. They go for the Brine. Brine gets the KO. We come in with the Shadow Cacturn, and they do reach a last second charge move. Now, I realize this is a Brine, but Shadow Cacturn is just so glassy. I thought the Credilli was lower. I thought we already landed that extra Incinerate. So unfortunately, we cannot commit to the full farm down there, and that is just a mistake on my end. I think if I let the Brine go through, I possibly would have just barely got the farm down there. But then again, I would have taken maybe one or two more Poison Jabs from the Toxapex. So I think I probably would have lost anyways. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we can see a Corviknight in the lead. Really awkward that I'm forced to swap out of my Salazzle there just because we take so much damage from those sand attacks. But we come in with the Bombirdier. I go for a Rock Tomb there, expecting the opponent to use their shield. Unfortunately, we do give them a huge farm down though. But we're going to come in with Salazzle, and I have debuffed their attack. However, I'm just going to shield anyways. Now we can win CMP with the Poison Fang. The opponent actually opts not to throw straight away, and instead, they actually let the Primate go down. So let's see what they come in with now. We are going to see the opponent's going to come in with a Malamar, so I'm going to go for one Incinerate, swap into my Shadow Cacturn, and definitely going to shield here. The opponent probably goes for the Superpower and then swaps back into the Corviknight, and they do exactly that. But that's fine with me. We're going to farm up to very close to back-to-back charge moves. Dynamic Punch is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. Now I can reach a Trailblaze here. Trailblaze should be grabbing the final shield. It's going to boost up my attack here. And whilst, yes, they will be able to throw a move to get rid of the Shadow Cacturn, I believe I am one Incinerate away from another Poison Fang. And of course, Salazzle able to get there in time, reaching the Poison Fang. Poison Fang takes out the Malamar, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, and one of the worst things I can face with this team, we see a Bastiodon in the lead. I'm safe swapping into my Bombirdier here just because in case the opponent has something like a Wigglytuff as well in the back, we need to bait it out here. But the opponent actually shields the Rock Tomb. That is huge for me. At this point, I'm just going to let the move go through here. Of course, grabbing a shield advantage. I mean, they might have expected something like Drill Run, I don't know. There are a few Pokemon, flying types that do learn Drill Run, so maybe that's why they shielded there. But either way, I'm definitely going to take that advantage, come in with the Shadow Cacturn. They actually swap out straight away into Feraligatr, so potentially an ABB style team with 2 water types in the back, which means Shadow Cacturn is definitely going to be my win condition here. So I'm definitely going to shield up the Hydro Cannon, go for the full Sucker Punch, farm down. They come back in with the Bastiodon. I'm looking to overfarm as much as I can here without taking too much damage. The opponent going to be one-shot by the Dynamic Punch, and they've got a Blastoise in the back, and Shadow Cacturn going on a nuking spree here. Trailblaze gets the one-shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to that opponent there, and actually into the real worst Pokemon for this team as we see a carving. This is absolutely awful for me. We're going straight for Poison Fang here. Well, I do overfarm by 1 Incinerate throw on good timing. Doesn't really make a difference here because I'm going to reach 2 Poison Fangs anyways. Maybe I should have just thrown immediately there, but either way, we go for Poison Fang number 2, and we do get them fairly low. We can come in with a Shadow Cacturn, and they swap out straight away into a Shadow Jumpluff. Of course, they were double debuffed there, so we're going to come in with the Bombirdier. We are going to shield the Acrobatics. I'm now going to overfarm massively in this matchup and fire off the Fly on what looks to be a CMP tie. Fly gonna be shielded by the opponent. Never mind, that was not CMP. This one gonna be the CMP tie here, and Fly number 2 is going to be shielded by the opponent. So at this point, I have to just save my shields for the Shadow Cacturn, but we're in range where Aerial Ace actually doesn't quite take me out there, but it doesn't really help me either as I'm forced to swap out. We come in with the Shadow Cacturn. Their final Pokemon gonna be Serperior, and unfortunately, Dynamic Punch, a great move. Shadow Cacturn, very attack weighted, but it doesn't quite get the KO here. The opponent will reach a last second Aerial Ace. The opponent, for whatever reason, once again undercharges. We come out with the move loaded, but of course, they just come back in with the Jumpluff. I can fire off the Trailblaze here. Trailblaze gets the KO. They can just Rock Throw, farm down the rest of my team. Remember, Carbink did still have a Moonblast loaded anyways, so regardless of the strange plays from the opponent, they were just guaranteed to win. But GG's to that opponent there into the next battle. And this is going to be one of the battles where I was just super tired, probably at like 4 AM. We swap into Bombirdier here, and do you know what? I just completely blanked here. Basically, Dazzling Gleam gets the one-shot. Previously, when I had seen a Shadow Sableye Save Swap, I swapped into my Galarian Moltres, and we were able to tank anything they throw, either Dazzling Gleam or a Power Gem, depending on what they're running. But Bombardier, his Glacier, and I just wasn't thinking there, so I swapped out. I know shielded, we lose switch advantage, and I get absolutely cooked. And so I just concede the match there. But GG's to that opponent there into the next battle, and that is why you probably shouldn't play until like 5:30 AM in the morning when you're trying to push for Legend, because it's just not going to go well. You're going to make stupid mistakes like that. But anyways, we're going to see the opponent save swaps into Azumarill. Azumarill, another really problematic Pokemon for this team. Now, situationally, you can see Salazzle with such a big energy advantage going to be okay here, as we can go for Poison Fang after Poison Fang after Poison Fang. Unfortunately, I kind of hesitated again as I tried to swap out, go for the farm down, but if I just swapped out immediately there, I could have got a full Sucker Punch farm down. But of course, if we see Azumarill in the lead, it is really difficult to deal with because Salazzle takes super effective damage from the fast moves, and then Cacturn going to take super effective from the charge moves. So definitely not ideal for me, but the opponent fires off the Aerial Ace. We can come in with the Bombirdier here, and I'm expecting the opponent to eventually swap out back into their Empoleon, but that's fine with me as we get the full Sucker Punch farm down. We can reach a Fly here, and Salazzle does have another Poison Fang loaded. So Fly grabs the final shield. We can come in with Salazzle, go for the snipe there. Poison Fang will be enough to take out the Serperior, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle, seeing Azumarill in the lead this time around. So just what I mentioned here, I'm forced to swap out into my Bombardier just because otherwise if I stay in with Salazzle, yes, of course, I can hit for super effective damage. With the Poison Fangs, they don't need to throw a charge move, and then they come up with so much loaded energy, which is going to be super effective up against the rest of my team. So we basically just get them into the yellow health range. We're now going to come in with the Shadow Cacturn, and unfortunately my switch clock is not up yet. They come in with a Shadow Annihilate, and that is definitely game over here. I can reach a last second Trailblaze, grab the first shield from my opponent, but if I try to commit to a full Incinerate farm down, they will reach back-to-back Rage Fists here, so not looking ideal for me, but I do need to commit to that farm down there, otherwise I will not be able to take out Azumarill. So we commit to the farm down using both shields. They come back in with the Azu, and I can go for Poison Fang. I've got back-to-back, so honestly, I hope they shield the first one, but they are smart. They let that go through, and they've got Galarian Corsola in the back. And unfortunately, despite having a double dark team, not able to get aligned, and we do lose that game. But speaking of Galarian Corsola, leading into it this time around, the opponent's going to respond with a Shadow Electivire. Now, if I really wanted to, I could fight hard for switch advantage here, just because these Sucker Punches are doing massive damage, but I'm going to take the shield advantage here. We're going to let the Ice Punch get the KO. We can come in with our Shadow Cacturn, and if they don't throw straight away, I'm able to snipe them before they can react. Unfortunately, they do have a Shadow Jumpluff in the back, so obviously not ideal for me, but we go for Dynamic Punch. We are going to win CMP, so I'm definitely going to shield here. I'm then going to go for one extra Sucker Punch, then swap into my Salazzle, and the opponent comes back in with Corsola, but I'm able to reach a Dragon Pulse here. So firing it off straight away, they no-shield this. And at this point, I'm thinking, you know what? Jumpluff is fairly low. I'm going to no-shield my Salazzle. Power Gem gets the KO. We get the Sucker Punch farm down, and now it's just a fast move farm down race. And Shadow Cacturn is winning the race. The opponent reaches the last second charge move, but it's going to be game over. Aerial Ace gets shielded, Sucker Punch gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We see a Talonflame in the lead. So I'm going to stay in this matchup here, and I'm going to go straight for Poison Fang. I always went straight for Poison Fang just because I know they're going to no-shield that first charge move, and this is going to drop their defense. And now we can, of course, shield this up here. And what I can do, go for one extra Incinerate and throw on a CMP tie here. The opponent forced to throw straight away. Poison Fang should now be grabbing a shield as the opponent probably going to fight for switch advantage. But at this point, Talonflame is low enough where I can come in with either Pokemon. And hopefully this is going to be their best response to my Shadow Cacturn in the back. But they do have a Serperior. So at this point, I'm going to actually overfarm here. I'm realizing they've probably got more Peko in the back, which is going to be really awkward for me. So what I'm going to do is fire off a Trailblaze. This should get the KO anyways from this range if they did no shield, but we're going to swap into Bombirdier here. We're going to catch the charge move. We do have very close to a second charge move loaded on my Shadow Cacturn, but they actually stay in with the Serperior, and it's not a Morpeko. Instead, it's going to be a Furret. We go for Rock Tomb there, debuffing their attack. This should now allow me to live a Swift, and I should be able to fire off a charge move. Swift, going to connect there, and you can see at this point, I am overfarming, and I just don't throw a move. What the heck am I doing here? I come in with Shadow Cacturn. Unfortunately, I do lose a fast move there, but it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, we don't come out with the charge move loaded. What was I thinking? I think Serperior, I must have just thought it was healthier than it was there, so I didn't want to throw a move and then be farmed down. But what a stupid mistake there. And unfortunately, that's kind of sums up how some of my games went there. I had some really, really nice wins. And then other games, I just played like an absolute potato. But my advice, once again, just don't play until like 5:30 a.m. in the morning. Like, just go to bed. But either way, we get the full farm down there. Of course, using a shield. Probably should have come in with my Bombirdier, actually, just because I could tank a Dynamic Punch, but they would actually reach 2 moves there. But either way, this is fine with me. They actually come in with Clodsire, which is probably better for me. Because if they come in with their Pangoro and they fully farm me down, that could be incredibly problematic for me. So now we're just going to come in with the Bombirdier here, and I'm going to no-shield as the opponent has just revealed that they're on Sludge Bomb. So of course, Sludge Bomb, not going to do too much damage there. I can go straight for the Fly. Fly should grab the final shield from the opponent or get the one-shot, and now we can swap into our Salazzle. At this point, I can afford to no-shield this. Night Slash does decent damage, but I can now commit to the Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse will very comfortably get the KO here, and then the opponent comes back in with the Clodsire. We've still got a shield, but it doesn't matter as it's actually me who's able to Incinerate, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle, seeing a Corviknight in the lead. I'm going to say swap, and the opponent actually swaps at the same time into the same Pokemon. That is very interesting. I'm going to shield this here. I don't know who's going to win CMP, so what we're going to do is we're going to overfarm here, farming up too close to back-to-back flies, firing off the first one. This should be grabbing a shield from the opponent, and now we throw a second one, and we win CMP, which is huge for me. So Fly, number 2, grabs the final shield from the opponent, and at this point I'm thinking, you know what, that is certainly range where 3 Incinerates will get the full farm down, so we're going to come in with Salazzle, go for that full farm down, but the opponent gets damage registration error there. They're able to reach a last second charge move, and that really impacts this game. We now come in with the Shadow Cacturn. We do get the farm down there. They come in with their Corviknight, and of course they will reach a charge move before a Dynamic Punch can get the KO. So instead, I'm going to shield this. I'm now going to overfarm massively in this matchup here, farming up to over back-to-back charge moves. I didn't want to hit 100 energy just because I felt like that would be a slight waste, but Dynamic Punch gets the KO, but actually, I think I needed to do that because you're going to honestly, it's gonna be close. Trailblaze gonna boost up my attack here, and we are just barely not able to reach a second Trailblaze. I think I would have got there in time if I farmed to 100 energy, and unfortunately I did not. So Sludge Bomb gets the KO there, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. The opponent's going to safe swap into a Shadow Typhlosion. So I'm just going to stay in with my Salazzle here, fire off the Poison Fang straight away, and now we should always be ahead on energy because it does take one turn to swap out. So we're going to shield up the Thunder Punch there. I'm going to throw on the CMP tie, and again, winning CMP this time. We're going to go for the Poison Fang. Poison Fang, gotta be no shielded. But if they have double Incinerate, which they do, this could get quite awkward for me. So what I'm actually going to do here, fire off the Poison Fang. I'm now going to swap into my Shadow Cacturn, assuming they would not throw straight away. And because they're debuffed, those 3 Sucker Punches deal huge damage. We fully sacrifice it, because now I can come in with the Bombirdier and commit to a full Sucker Punch farm down. So the opponent is going to just concede the match there. They realize it's game over, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. Shadow Dragonite in the lead. Gonna stay in with my Salazzle. Go straight for Poison Fang. Should grab an early shield, and then I will be swapping. No, never mind. They actually no-shield that. They do bank the energy, but they come in with a Lowland Sandslash. And I will not be able to tank this, but it's good to bait it out here. Of course, Shadow Cacturn does not want to see this Pokemon. And actually, if it is the team that I'm thinking of, we might be okay here, just because the opponent, we're not able to fully farm them down. But I'm thinking it should be a Jellicent. This team was very popular either last season or very early this season. I can't really remember. And it is the Jellicent, so that's going to be game over. Shadow Cacturn with 2 shields. There's nothing they can do anymore. Jellicent only going to reach 1 charge move, and so the opponent just no shields. We get the Sucker Punch farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top home there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Drapion in the lead. So, Drapion, really problematic for me. If they don't throw an Aqua Tail straight away, I'm actually going to go for a Poison Fang, and I throw it on bad timing, but I just need to drop that defense. And actually, they end up shielding, which is fine with me. They're now going to be at back-to-back charge moves, so I'm going to shield up the Aqua Tail, swap into my Bombirdier here, and the opponent's going to respond with a Jump Bluff. Now, unfortunately, up against a non-Shadow, Fly is just not going to get the KO here, but Fly does big damage, and I'm able to reach a second Fly, winning CMP, which is huge for me. Fly, number 2, grabs a shield from the opponent. Never mind, that was not a CMP tie there. I don't know what I'm talking about, but the opponent fires off the acrobatics. They full send it. Now we come back in with Salazzle. I probably should just no-shield this, but for some reason I shield. I don't know why. They could not reach another acrobatics there, and now, unfortunately, Shadow Cacturn with no shields is not going to appreciate an Ice Punch. An Ice Punch actually gets the one-shot there. Why did I shield my Salazzle? I don't know, but either way, unfortunately, that's going to be game over. The opponent does have an Aqua Tail loaded on their Drapion. I think that was it. I wanted to shield, and then expecting the opponent to swap straight away back into their Drapion after I shielded my Salazzle, but unfortunately that was not the case, and as a result we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there into possibly the final battle of this video. The opponent's going to say swap into a Lapras, so I'm going to respond with my Shadow Cacturn. Of course, they do outpace me to the first move, but they just go for a Sparkling Aria. So at this point, I'm now going to overfarm, fire off the Trailblaze here. Trailblaze definitely going to get the KO if they no shield, and they do just take the shield advantage. But they come back in with the Jump Bluff. I'm going straight for Dynamic Punch. This is single resisted rather than Trailblaze, which is double resisted, and honestly that does respectable damage. So at this point the opponent is finally going to fire off a charge move. They go for the Aerial Ace. We're now going to come in with Salazzle, but this is a little bit problematic for me, but the opponent swaps into Malamar. So at this point, firing off the Poison Fang straight away, they're going to shield that. It is a Shadow Malamar, so unfortunately, Bombirdier going to take quite a lot of damage from a Superpower, but I'm going to no-shield the first move. The opponent does full send that Superpower, but I'm actually able to get the full Sucker Punch farm down. That is huge for me, and we come out with back-to-back flies, but do we live the Fairy Wind damage? It's going to be close. But the answer is yes. We live on 1 HP and a dream. Fly, gonna get the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.